Well, it's a great honour to rise to present my response to Her Honour the Lieutenant Governor's speech. I do want to acknowledge the Government House Leader and thank him for the opportunity to do so. Well, it's been quite a journey getting to this moment, but here I am and here we all are to do the important work of the people of Alberta. It is a new day in the Alberta Legislature, and I again want to congratulate the Premier and her government and all of the members of the House. And when we run for office, our family runs with us. And I want to thank my wife, who somehow manages to keep things on track for our daughters, while also working full-time plus, doing her important work as a palliative care physician, helping those in their time of great need. And to my daughters, thank you for putting up with all of this. It might not always seem like it, but I am doing this for you. And I know that all members of the Assembly are also spending a lot of time away from their families as we work together in our shared goal of making Alberta even better than it already is. Now, I'm not the first in my family to seek elected office. My grandmother, Alberta Clark, and yes, her name really was Alberta Clark, was the 35th woman in Alberta history to run in a provincial election, standing in the constituency of Calgary in the 1952 general election. And my grandmother taught me that perseverance, service to community, and commitment to family are what really matter. My father also sought the seat of Calgary Elbow in 1989. He lost narrowly to one Ralph Klein. And my father tells me he wants all of you to know that the cuts to health and education of the 1990s are not his fault. So it is indeed an honour and a privilege to represent the people of Calgary Elbow, the place I was born, where I was raised, and I've lived my entire life. Parts of what are now Calgary Elbow have been home to 5 premiers, including Premiers Redford, Klein, Lougheed, Manning, and Aberhart, as well as 2 lieutenant governors, John J. Bolin and Grant McEwen. It is a diverse community, home to some of Calgary's oldest and newest neighbourhoods, co-op housing and homes that are historic landmarks. In all parts of the constituency, the people of Calgary Elbow enjoy a strong sense of community and connectedness to their neighbourhoods. But this was tested 2 years ago, almost to the day, when we experienced one of the worst natural disasters in our country's history. In the days and the weeks after the flood, we showed the world what we're made of. Thousands of people pitched in to help total strangers dig out their basements, and neighbours with less damage helped those worse off than themselves. We showed the world, but more importantly, we showed each other what it means to be an Albertan. And while we should remember the positives that came out of the aftermath of the flood, we must not be complacent. Another flood is coming. We just don't know when. And let us never forget the 5 people who lost their lives in the flood and count ourselves lucky that the number was not much higher. And also to think of the first responders who risked their lives running towards danger while the rest of us sought safety. And think about the economic impact. The 2013 flood was the most expensive natural disaster in Canadian history. And the floodwaters came within inches of entering downtown from the south. And if that happens again, the damage could be tens of billions of dollars in lost business, and the impact on the thousands of people living and working downtown would be immeasurable. We can and must build flood mitigation, and we must do it quickly to ensure the continued economic viability of downtown Calgary and ensure the residents of Calgary Elbow and other communities never have to live through another devastating flood. And while flood mitigation is important, it certainly is not the only reason I'm here. I stand before you in the Legislative Assembly of Alberta because of my daughters, because I have a deep and abiding desire to ensure the Alberta they inherit has even greater opportunity and even greater equality than we enjoy today. But I worry this might not be the case. If we do not ensure our province continues to be an attractive place for entrepreneurs with a competitive tax regime, especially for small business, if we do not pursue purposeful, market-driven economic diversification, and we do not ensure our government delivers well-managed and efficient public services, my daughters and all Albertans will not share in the prosperity that is possible in this great place. We are truly fortunate to be Albertans, and I am endlessly optimistic about the future of our province. Alberta was built by forward-looking people who were optimists and risk-takers at heart. We Albertans believe in ourselves and our families, families of all shapes and sizes. The real Alberta doesn't care who you love, only that we treat each other with dignity and respect. We want the best for ourselves, but we also want the best for our neighbours, for our children, and for each and every one of the 4.3 million people who call Alberta home. This includes First Nations and Métis peoples whose culture and heritage help define who and what Alberta is and what it can be. We must work together as partners to truly consult, to listen, and more importantly, to hear. The people who built this province persevered. They didn't take no for an answer. They didn't let a failed crop or a dry well or a failed business stop them. They dusted themselves off, learned from the past, and moved forward, looking to the possibilities of tomorrow rather than bemoaning the failures of the past. Albertans have always made the impossible possible. People more than a century ago were told it was an impossible task to establish farms and homesteads in this bald prairie, or even to survive an Alberta winter. Oil sands pioneers were told it is impossible to overcome the technical challenges to produce bitumen economically. Medical researchers at the University of Alberta were told nothing could be done to improve the lives of people with type 1 diabetes. Doctors at the University of Calgary were told every stroke is a death sentence. They didn't give up. They didn't take no for an answer, and our province, our world, is a better place for it. That's who we are as Albertans, and that is something to be proud of. Our work in this Assembly must be focused on ensuring that continues to be the case for future generations. At the same time, we must recognize that many Albertans are going through difficult times, and our province is facing a historic deficit. We must find more and more stable sources of revenue, but more spending cannot be the only answer. We must transform Alberta's public service and operate our government more efficiently and effectively. A new government is an opportunity to make our public service more transparent and less expensive. I have had the privilege of listening to many responses to the speech from the throne, and what strikes me is that each and every one of us are here because we believe passionately in making Alberta a better place. And I think we would be wise to heed the advice of the member from Calgary Mountain View. Let's make this Assembly a place of negotiation, always focusing on the best interests of Albertans. We have a remarkable opportunity. We have the chance to define ourselves by our ideas, by our vision for Alberta, and not by what we oppose, by who we are rather than what we are against. This new legislature gives us a chance to look at old problems with a fresh perspective. I hope we all take this opportunity to show Albertans we are ready to govern differently. I make the same commitment to you that I make to my constituents in Calgary Elbow, to my family, and to myself. I will be reasonable, rational, and forward-looking. Where I believe government policy is good for Albertans, I will support it. I will never oppose for the sake of opposition. Where I disagree, I will say why, and I will propose clear alternatives. My hope is that we as members, working together, will ensure the Alberta spirit of looking out for our neighbours and rewarding hard work, of shared prosperity and a focus for the future continues today and for many generations to come. Thank you very much.